Hi, this is Lauren from Axilent. This is another in a series of ongoing screencasts to introduce you to the Axilent platform. And today we're going to be looking at content channels. Content channels are basically the standard way to get content out of Axilent and onto your website. Essentially, you can think of them as a channel for content in which your editorial policy is automated. So you decide the criteria by which that channel is populated with content. Now in this screencast, we're not going to be looking at the programming side of it, the API. We're just going to be looking at how to configure a content channel from within the Axilent UI. However, generally speaking, the way that you would get content from the content channel would be through the API. So this is the content channel UI. It can be reached through the channels icon here on the command bar. And to create a new content channel, just press the big plus button. And we'll give our channel a name. Just call it test channel. And it has a couple of options here. So just to go briefly, you can usually just leave these checked as per the default. This one is filter by content freshness, and this is just telling the channel that all things being equal, give newer content priority over older content. Cache results is usually something you're going to want to leave checked. This means basically that content in the channel will be cached, meaning that if it's hit over and over again from the front end, instead of going back and recalculating the content in the channel, it'll just pull what it has out of the cache. This is a significant increase in performance for the channel, but the possible disadvantage of it is if you have recently deployed changes, those changes may not be reflected in the cache. Usually you're going to want to leave this checked. Finally, this third option here, which we'll look at the consequences of this a little more in another screencast, but this is track channel performance. And this basically sets up the infrastructure to see whether the recommendations you're doing in your content channel are working. Are people clicking on them? So we're just going to leave that as default. I'm going to go ahead and create the channel. And you'll see that we have this screen here, which is the initial configuration panel for the channel. So the first thing we're going to want to do with our channel is add at least one content type to it. This is telling the channel what kind of content it should be returning. So right here under the content types section, we'll hit that little add button here, and we'll select the content type we want, which is article. Add that. And you'll now see that it shows up on the list here. You can remove that there if you want. The other initial thing to look at is the maximum number of items that will be returned by the channel. By default it'll be 5, but you can edit this, and if you're looking at something that you want a long list of items returned, you can increase this, or sometimes people set up specialty content channels that can return as little as 1 item. And you would be able to affect that right here. Again, I'm going to leave it as the default of 5. So next I want to draw your attention to all of these sliders that are here in the channel config. These all represent different algorithms by which the content channel can be populated, and you determine the mix that you're going to want. So by moving the sliders over to the right, you'll see this pie chart start to appear, and it's showing you the overall mix of how the algorithms work together in order to populate the channel. So if, let's say I want 50% curated, 50% related by field, I can just move these over. And it's not, I don't think it's terribly important to be exact about this, but you can just sort of move the sliders until you get the mix you want. And you can make it as complicated or as simple as you'd like, just by continuing to move the sliders and get the mix. You'll also notice that next to a lot of these there is an edit button here, and the edit button provides a means of configuring the individual algorithm. So if you want to drill down a little deeper, which is usually necessary, it's accessible through here. So I'm just going to pull these back for a moment, and the first one of these that I want to have a look at is curated content. Now, curated content means that you choose specifically which content items should show up. And so if we click this add button here, we'll see basically the a search field, and you can search in here and get results back, or if you have anything favorited, you can click on the show favorites button and you'll see your favorites show up in the list here. And then to add it to the curated content for this channel, you click the choose link here. Now it's going to ask you for a priority for the curated content, and this is significant because content that is returned from a content channel always has a priority, which is a value from 1 to 100 assigned to it. And the implication is that higher priority content items are more important, and the front end should reflect that somehow by showing them at the top or larger, or in some other way that indicates they're more important. So with the other algorithms, that priority is generally calculated by the algorithm, but because this is curated content, you're going to specify it. And so here's a pull down right here. So if you, for example, wanted to use curated content and always have a particular content item show up at the very top of the results, then you would want to basically put the largest value in here you could, which would be 100. And now this particular article, the inbox, will be returned with a priority of 100, which pretty much guarantees that it will be at the top of the results that come back from this content channel, regardless of how you decide to populate the rest of the channel. Okay, so let's look at a couple other ones here. Related content by field is the concept that we are going to pull in relevant content, and the reason it's relevant is because the fields in that content are somehow a match for a reference of some sort. And so let's click on the edit button here and we'll see a little more detail what we have to work with. So what you'll see here is a list of the fields that are in the content types that we've added to the channel here. So we've added the article content type. So these are all the fields inside article. And we can look at this and we can choose which fields we want to use in order to pull content. So when we say we want related content, we want it related by what? Well, we'd like it related by the category, maybe. And maybe we'd like it related by, oh, I don't know, like the title. And then we have a choice for each one of these. We either can reference the base content. Now, base content is an idea where we're starting off with a particular content item on the front end website or app or what have you. And we're showing other content items in our content channel that are related to that initial piece of content. And so when we say we are referencing the base content here, what we're saying is we're going to look at that main piece of content on the page and look at its field, so look at its title in this case of this particular field, and we're going to look for titles that match in the other content that we've deployed, and if we find a match, we'll pull back content by that other title. The other option is referencing a specific value, and this allows you to make content channels very specific about certain things. So specific value, you know, you just type it into the reference value here in this case. So, you know, news, something like that. This is basically saying I want this channel to populate with content that all has the same title field. Now, once you selected which fields you want to use here, what determines which fields are more important than other fields is not done here. That's done in the content type, and that has to do with the saliency of those fields. So in previous podcasts we discussed that fields have saliency, which indicates how important those fields are and determining whether content is relevant to each other. So that works with this configuration here together in order to populate content. So I could say, well, I want it to be referencing the base content for both title and category for this content channel, but in the content type it might turn out that category has a much higher saliency value than title, and that means the content that's going to show up in this channel is going to be weighted towards matches in category over title. We will look more closely at this when we get into content types, which we'll do in an upcoming screencast. Now, another important one to look at is tag-related content, which is right here. With tag-related content, the idea is that you are pulling back content that is relevant because of how it's been tagged. And there's two ways to do this. One is right here at the top, you'll see compare tags to base content. And again, this is looking at a scenario where we have a base content of some sort, main piece of content shown on the page, and we are, in our channel, we're pulling back content that is relevant to that base content somehow. And in this particular case, if you check compare tags to base content, then what the channel will do is it will look at that base content item and will say, how has it been tagged? And then go find me other content that's been tagged the same way. I'll pull that back. The other thing you can do is say, give me content that has been tagged in a specific manner, and you can do that just by checking one of these tags here. And these tags are a list of everything that has been entered into your system. So development, integration, that kind of thing. If you check these items, what you're going to get back in your content channel is content that has been tagged with those particular tags. Also, I'd just like to quickly point out random content, which doesn't have any configuration to it. Not much to this. Basically, it does what it says. It pulls back random content. This is the fastest, simplest way to get content into your channel, and it's actually an effective thing to do if you're just testing integration. So if you're a developer and you just want to make sure that the channel's actually working and you can get content back from it, dialing up some random content is the fastest way to do it. Also, I should probably point out the blacklist. So the blacklist is sort of the opposite of curated content. This is a list of content that you never want to appear in this content channel. So if there is, for whatever reason, something out there that you need to make sure it never ever shows up in this content channel, this is the way to do it. So this will override those algorithms, even if you have even if you have curated content that lists a particular item. If it's in this blacklist, it will be removed out of the channel before it's delivered to the front end. Adding content is very similar to the curated content. Basically, it gives you a search screen. You can show your favorites again if you want, and you can choose any item. It'll go on the blacklist, and now this will never appear in this content channel. Finally, to make all your changes live, because like the rest of Axilent, the changes you make while you're here in the UI are not automatically reflected on the front end. You deploy this content channel very similar way to the way you would deploy an individual content item. So down here on the bottom, we have the controls, and here's the publish to. And we'll select production, and then we hit that, and this content channel is now published out to production, where it can be accessed on the front end. Okay, that is it for content channels. There is more to this, but this is a good start, an introduction. We will be touching on some more advanced topics regarding content channel composition in later podcasts. But thank you for watching in the meantime.